Hello, and welcome to our lightning talks on enabling digital ecosystems for the ICT4D partnerships. I hope you enjoyed your session so far today. This is our closing session before the networking sessions for today, the day that is looking at partnering locally. So we have two lightning talks for you. The first one, I would like to introduce Thembani Malapaya. He's a Knowledge and Information Management Officer at the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, or short FAO. And Thembani will share more about his experiences of FAO and ITU in implementing national digital agricultural strategies in Africa. Thembani, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. It's very lovely to meet you all for this talk. We will share with you our experiences in developing national digital agriculture strategies in Africa. This work is really a work that we really love so much, and it's one of the work in supporting to the Sustainable Development Goals of both FAO and International Telecommunications Union, which are both agencies. In this slide, which I'm not going to read, you have the background information a bit about these two agencies, how they work together. Initially, in Geneva 2003, under the framework of World Summit on Information Society, FAO and ITU chose or were chosen to work together on the areas of ICTs for agriculture. Why the two agencies is because FAO is specialized UN agencies that focuses on food and agriculture in countries, and ITU focuses on telecommunications. It was thought at that moment the two were great synergies to work together in countries. Over the years, since, as you can see from that to Geneva in 2015, the WISES has been a very good framework that FAO has been working together. And since 2015, we have channeled all our efforts to the alignments of the Sustainable Development Goals. But still, via the UN framework, we do meet at other levels, Broadband Commission, Partners to Connect. FAO is constantly working with ITU. And our work spans across globally, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. But specifically, this work is covered by a memorandum of understanding between FAO and ITU that was signed and is still running since 2017. I will talk about a little bit of my work in digital agriculture that really is we bring to this work. There are 7 areas of work, mainly first one being the memorandum of understanding that I'm going to talk much about. We work again on frontier and emerging technologies, blockchain, artificial intelligence. We work again with other partners on digital agriculture. We are implementing, starting 3 months ago, national digital agriculture and innovation hubs in 4 countries: Ethiopia, Morocco, Grenada, and we are also working on the facilitating of an e-agriculture community of practice, a group of people from over 20,000 globally interested in this topic. Let me go straight to the work that we are working on. What happened is I'm sure we have noticed that a lot of ICTs or digital technologies, as we refer to them, have been growing like mushrooms around the globe. And it became clearer to FAO as early as 2006, 2007, 2008, that a policy framework was needed to guide investments into digital agriculture. The Food and Agriculture Organization and the ITU worked to develop what we used to call an e-agriculture strategy guide, which we piloted in Asia and Pacific. The guide was an initial pace setter in allowing countries to think about how to invest in sustainably using technologies, especially information and communication technologies. Over the years, we have developed in the last 2 years a digital agriculture strategy toolkit. This is a toolkit that allows countries to be able to invest in digital technologies, especially focusing on agriculture and development. How does the toolkit looks like? The toolkit has 4 aspects. The first one looking at maturity assessment as analyzing the ecosystems, understanding how the ecosystems are, benchmarking this ecosystem and seeing at what level of maturity they are. Then digital agriculture readiness ranking, how ready is digital agriculture to be implemented in these countries. Then leading the countries to start to think strategically after having done their assessments, how they can develop a strategy that is palatable to their needs, that allows investments in countries. And then a project management cycle method that we employ. But most importantly, to have countries resource mobilize to further support this investment, because policies alone do not always yield positive development. So what are some of our approaches? As you can see, I've already mentioned a 4-phased approach in maturity assessments, stakeholder consultation, strategy development, and resource mobilization. From our experiences that when we go to some of these countries, there is no talk between the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of ICTs. So a strategy usually is very needed to really bring partners to the table. The ecosystem is the private sector, mostly in the mobile network operators, are really for profit, and they might not provide solutions that are really favorable for agriculture. We also have a growing young startup that is coming in Africa, in the region, but also they are not very supported. Some of them are started by multilateral funds like World Bank, UN, and some of them are by the private sector. Very good examples that we do have in Kenya and Rwanda. These are upcoming startups. What normally happens is that when these are not harnessed together, they do not make an impact for development as we want to achieve the sustainable development goals. So these strategies and these approaches brings all these stakeholders together and create needs of an enabling environment that is needed. In order to do so, I told about the toolkit that we are developing. We have implemented this, and in these countries that you see, in Benin, we finished the process of developing the strategy. It is just waiting for the government sign-off. Niger, they're in the second phase. They completed the digital ecosystem. The first phase, the ecosystem maturity assessment. Now they are going to ecosystem stakeholder consultation. Niger is super interesting also for us because we are piloting their what we call smart village concept. In Ghana, they are still in the phase 1. They got some funding, so we are still in the preparatory phase to ensure that we finish the assessment. We just completed in December 2021 with Rwanda. Rwanda had already an ICT4 policy, but they wanted to review their policy and to ensure that their policy is in line with their national strategy and the needs of the country. So we went through this process and we created this. And Madagascar, they just secured funds. We will be beginning in February, and many, many other countries are coming. The outputs of our process is usually, first of all, is the country assessment report that gives you a situational analysis. And then we also have some diagnostic reports that we do have internally, finally leading to the agricultural strategy. Our thinking now is to finalize this toolkit and make it available as a SaaS and user-friendly as a digital public goods. We would need partners later, as I'm going to highlight, to make this dynamic. This process, why we're taking this approach is that we want countries to be able to enable and go through this process without FAO and ITU always providing them support during the process, but as guides so that they can also operate on their own. Also, FAO and ITU have worked super hard in trying to really develop the digital agriculture capacity of countries. Here on my slide, you see two products that we have done. The assessments, we have done national assessments at a global level. For example, I give you an example. In Europe, we did a status of digital agriculture in 18 countries of Europe and Central Asia. This publication lays a background for partners and stakeholders to really understand what goes on in these countries. We're just finishing now in print the similar approach, status of digital agriculture in 47 sub-Saharan African countries. These are joint FAO and ITU member countries that we provide a clear view. I will just give you a little bit of some snippets that we're getting from this, is that agriculture is not prioritized in the digital space. Secondly, a lot of mobile penetration has happened in coastal countries that are around Africa. The countries that are landlocked, internet is still expensive, still inaccessible. Women and youth are the least to be prioritized in technology. So the technology is likely to provide much wider gap. We are seeing lack of policy support in terms of how this development in technology is happening in countries, which is needed in the ecosystem. A larger private sector participation without regard also of the needs of the poor and also of others. Digital skills are lacking amongst the youth and women. So you will see, as a result of these findings, you will see on the right hand of my screen, maybe to your left, but you see a number of initiatives that we're trying to work through to solve some of these challenges that we have unearthed in studying the states of digital agriculture. One of the examples initiative that we think could be helpful is already an ITU Smart Village initiative, which we initiated in Niger. Niger is one of the developing countries with possibly less connectivity. What FAO and ITU are doing is to have village network boosters where access to internet is provided. Tablets, as you can see from the pictures, it allows the heavy participation of 3 UN agencies, WHO, FAO, and UNESCO. So WHO brings e-medicine or telemedicine, FAO brings in the digital agriculture information for farmers, and UNESCO brings educational materials. The pilot is for 50 countries in Niger, and we want to improve these. We want to connect these to the 1,000 villages initiatives that the Food and Agriculture Organization is doing so. But in order to do so, we need a community of people. And we have a community of practice with the 22,000 members on the e-agriculture platform as a discussion. We want expertise of special people that we can work with in countries. This platform really does provide us a starting gap for these. So if you're not a member, just log in there. We would like to use these also, integrate this platform with other platforms. For example, there's a new platform for small islands and developing states that we have put as a way to give all those countries an opportunity to discuss issues that are very dear to them in terms of digital agriculture. I think it's just in summary, to conclude, we have a call of action. We would need very much to work with many of you, especially I've mentioned that in dynamizing our toolkit, making it a global public good, we would need support in that. We will need incubators and accelerators and labs that can work in our countries to promote these digital skills and innovation amongst the youth and the women. And then the third one, we will need a cooperation of private sector to scale some of these innovations that are there, and also to help in the digital inclusion projects and ideas that we have. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. I give you my email and those of my colleagues so that you can able to contact us and also network later in this section. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you, Tambani. And also Tambani will be joining a Q&A session right after this and will be available for any questions and also further discussion around this topic. But before you go and join him, we also have a short video from USAID about about the Digital Ecosystem Country Assessment, short DECA. And speaking to us will be Greg Jolly. He's a data scientist at USAID. So I hope you enjoy his contribution. Thank you.
So hello, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. I'm really excited to be presenting for ICT4D today, and I'm very grateful to the conference organizers for giving me this opportunity to share some of our work. So my name is Craig Jolly, and I'm with the Bureau for Development, Democracy, and Innovation at USAID, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about our Digital Ecosystem Country Assessment and about a toolkit that we've recently developed for that. So just to back up a little bit, the toolkit is something that comes out of the USAID digital strategy. This is our first ever digital strategy, and we launched it back in April 2020. And it's a policy framework through which we're working to advance open, secure, and inclusive digital ecosystems. So I really want to zero in on that word ecosystem because that's probably the most important part of this presentation. And I want to define what we mean when we say that. So when we talk about an ecosystem, we're talking about the systems, enabling environment, and stakeholders that make it possible for people and communities to use digital technologies to access services, interact with each other, or pursue economic opportunities. As the countries in which USAID works undergo digital transformations, digital ecosystems increasingly serve as the foundation of open, accountable, and citizen-responsive governance, inclusive development, and economic growth. So what you're seeing here is a representation of the strategic objectives of the digital strategy. So the first one that you're seeing on the left there is really internally focused. We're thinking about our own sphere of direct influence, about the programs that we run, and about how we can use technology in ways that are both responsible and effective. Objective 2, over on the right-hand side, is facing outward. And there we're thinking about the digital ecosystem as a whole and who the different stakeholders are who are involved with that, whom we might be able to partner with, and what some of the broader dynamics that are happening there are. And the DECA is very much something that lives on this objective 2 side, where we're thinking about how we can use our programming and our work to influence digital ecosystems in a positive way. So there's 4 different tracks of implementation. You can see them here. I'm not going to go through all of this or read all of them for you. I just want to flash this up to give you a sense of the range of things that we're doing, from things that are very externally focused and programmatic, all the way to things that are focused more on our own internal processes and on the way that we train our own workforce. You'll see I've put a red box around the digital ecosystem country assessments. It's right up at the top of the first track of implementation. Some people like to refer to the DECA as the flagship initiative of the digital strategy, and I think part of the reason for that is we see it as something that can go ahead to prepare the way for some of these other initiatives in a specific country context by arming our colleagues with the knowledge and the contextual background that they need to act effectively in a country's digital ecosystem. So when we're researching a digital ecosystem, one of the first things that we needed to do was to define what exactly we're covering when we do that and what the scope of this assessment is. And so we came up with this digital ecosystem framework where we're looking at 3 broad topical areas or 3 pillars. The first of these we call digital infrastructure and adoption. There we're interested in how people are able to get online, what the technologies are that are enabling to do that, that are enabling them to do that, how affordable and secure those are, and especially where we're seeing gaps or inequities in access, where people have differing levels of ability to take advantage of what's there. The second area that we look at, we call digital society rights and governance. And here we're interested in a lot of things. One that's particularly important is the state of human rights online, to what extent people's human rights are being respected or perhaps being violated in the online space, and what that looks like in a specific country context. We're also interested in how governments adopt technology, potentially to improve the services they're delivering to citizens, to manage their own internal processes more efficiently, or to engage well with the public. The third broad area that we look at is the digital economy. And there we're interested in all of the ways that digital technology is transforming the way that economies work, ranging from financial services and payment systems to e-commerce to trade to the way that the workforce is trained and developed. There are a lot of elements to this, and we want to understand the role of digital in the economy as well. You'll see this donut in the middle that has our 4 cross-cutting topics in it. These are cybersecurity and inclusion. We look a little bit into emerging technologies. So this is AI and blockchain and the Internet of Things and all of that fun stuff. And then we have an area on geopolitical positioning. And there we're really interested in how a country's relationship with its neighbors and with global powers is both shaping and being shaped by that country's digital ecosystem. So this is the thing here that I'm really finally excited to talk about. So this is our DECA toolkit. This was officially approved and released last week. So this is absolutely hot off the presses. And where this really came from is that we have a goal that we really want to provide one of these assessments for every USAID mission by the time we get to the end of the strategy implementation period in 2024. That's a lot. And so we developed this toolkit to make this process as easy as possible for missions and for the partners who they're working with. So we refined this mostly over the course of our first 4 pilot DECAs, and we really brought together a lot of lessons learned, a lot of guidance, both on research and on project management, and a lot of templates, and tried to bring in everything that we could and everything that would be necessary for people to conduct one of these assessments successfully. And so it has sections that explain all of this from the point of view both of the mission staff who need to manage one of these assessments and of the research staff that are actually conducting it. This is our list of DECAs to date. We've got 7 that we've completed, 6 currently in progress, and another 8 more that we're planning for 2022. So it's going to be a busy year for us. I want to direct your attention in particular to a few of these that have asterisks next to them. These are the ones that have been actively using this DECA toolkit. So most of these were carried out by the implementing partner who helped us to develop the toolkit in the first place. But there are a few of these where missions have brought their own mechanism, and we're really doing this in a way that's more independent from me and from my team, which is, of course, very exciting for me. The first of these was Uzbekistan. They were good sports and were our beta testers who were really great about providing us with a lot of feedback and working with the toolkit before it was completely finished and helping us to understand where some areas of potential improvement and refinement were. And then later in the spring, we're hoping to launch toolkit DECAs with Bosnia and Herzegovina and also with the Zambia mission. So this is another slide with a lot of words on it, and I'm not going to read all of them, but you can see this is our rough plan for what the evolution of the digital strategy implementation is going to look like over the next few years. And in particular, there are a couple of spots that I've highlighted here where we see the DECAs coming in. So in the first 2 years of the digital strategy implementation, which is ending just about now, I suppose, we were really focused on building things, on creating new tools, on creating new capacities, and really creating that foundation for digital transformation at USAID. And that was the stage in which we were testing out the DECA tool and developing it and writing this toolkit. During the next 3 years, our focus is going to shift a little bit to thinking about scale, to trying to deliver this to every mission in the world, to trying to bring in a broader range of potential partners and potential researchers who can help to be a part of this with us. So speaking of being part of things with us, if you're interested in learning more, I've got the URLs here for the DECA Toolkit and for the Digital Ecosystem Framework, which is more of a lightweight explanation of this. And if you are interested in learning more or you have questions, please don't hesitate to email me. You can see my email there. It's cjolley, Jolley, @usa.gov. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you, USAID, for sharing this with us. And now we have a few more networking sessions for today, for anybody still keen to continue with us. So you now have a choice of either joining the Q&A session with Tembani on the Enabling Digital Ecosystems, join a Spanish language regional networking session for the LACRO region, or you can join me on an ICT4D scavenger hunt, which is going to be a little bit of fun and it's going to get your adrenaline up. So thank you very much for sticking around, and I'm looking forward to see you again either in the next session or tomorrow for our day looking at data sharing and partnerships. Thank you and goodbye.